This is part 30 of my progress report so far, resealing plexiglass windows. This is my introduction to sailing Wilson on YouTube. I own a 2013 Island Spirit catamaran, 38 foot in length, and I really love my boat. I'm sure you've heard this before, but please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel and push on the notification bell. That'd help a lot. By the way, please share my videos with other people you know. I'm currently on the hard stand at Reback Island Shipyard, which is in the top middle of the photograph. Reback Island is a resort island just off the main island of Langkawi. After 7 years there was a number of leaks in the Sikaflex sealant around the plexiglass windows. I started out with a Stanley knife to cut the Sikaflex out between the windows and the fiberglass frame, and then I used a screwdriver to get underneath the Sikaflex and slowly work it out. It turned out the best way to do it. On the inside it was another story. It took a lot of effort to get rid of the Sikaflex, and we had to use a number of different techniques. We ended up using what I call a Dremel tool with a long blade to get in behind the plexiglass and the window frame and dig out the Sikaflex to loosen up the windows and pry them out. So as you can see, the Sikaflex is thick right along the full 60 millimeters, and we had to use the Dremel tool from the inside to get up and break away that Sikaflex so that the window would pop out slowly from one end to the other. And working from one end to the other is the key to it all. Having the right tool for the job makes a big difference. As you can see, the wide blade is much easier than in a Stanley knife. Stanley knife works, but this is much easier. And once you get a little bit of the Sikaflex off, you can then start to scrape with the same blade. Removing the window with the Dremel tool and the long edged blade, you slide it inside the window and the frame, and you work right along. In the corners was quite difficult. Used a knife. Likewise, we used a knife in the long corner, and that was extremely difficult. Here's my lovely wife using a Stanley knife to remove the thick coat of Sikaflex. The next day we purchased a long blade, and that made it a lot easier to get rid of the Sikaflex from the window frame. And then of course I also purchased a flat sander, and that cut the workload by 10. Here's an image of me working at it from the outside, and it was quite a task, and it was fairly successful. So I've removed the plexiglass and the Sikaflex from the window frame. Then we scraped it best we could, and then used the sanding machine to sand it down to get rid of all the Sikaflex, and then the corner Dremel tool to sand out all the excess so that we've got a good finish. And the next step is to epoxy and seal the window frame, and that will be ready for the 3M tape, and then the plexiglass can go back in. It seems that most manufacturers, when they cut out the area to put the windows in, they don't seal it, and that means that any leaks get down into the foam core, and we used epoxy to seal that and any damage that we caused while we're removing the windows. Silly me, I forgot to use 3M tape to tape off the areas I didn't want the epoxy on, and that made the job later on quite difficult to sand. thickened epoxy repaired all the chalky areas that broke away while we were pulling the windows out. And of course it's the wet season and we got wet through on numerous occasions. So then we used the 3M double-sided tape, which was a little bit of a mistake. I got the right amount, but I only purchased a 1.5 millimeters, and it should have been 3 millimeters, because 1.5 wasn't thick enough to get a good hold on the window frame and the plexiglass windows. We use Sikaflex 295 UV, which is designed for outside in the sun, and that did a good job. It needs to be the same, nearly the same as the rope. But what's the gap like on your end?
No gap.
No gap, so it has to go that way just slightly.
Okay.
I used 8mm rope to get the gap between the plexiglass window and the bottom of the window frame, and then we peeled off the protective layer of paper from the 3M tape.
You have to push a little bit. That's too much.
Pull, Gilly.
Pull. Me, I don't know. Pull. Oh, no. No, it's
okay. You happy?
Just a bit more. Now it's okay for me.
Everybody ready?
Yeah. Just a little bit.
Push down. No, Gilly, wait. That's it. Down. Alright, here's the 5 minutes of banging. Video is on.
Yep. Okay, you can smile and wave and look like you're having fun.
Well, I thought the job turned out really well, but the next day was the disappointment. The next day I realised my big mistake. The 3M tape wasn't thick enough or strong enough to keep the window in place, and it pulled away from the window frame and caused me real grief. And because I left it a few more days, it got worse and worse. Because the front area of the window frame was blank and you couldn't see through, I decided to cut the leading edge off the plexiglass to get rid of some of the spring, and that was more than successful, but difficult to line it up later on. And using my cordless grinder, I carefully cut the front section out of the plexiglass window, and here you can see a closer view of it coming off. And then this shows you the blank area I was talking about, and through the glass you can see where the window, the see-through part of the window is, so I had plenty of left over. And then I sanded off the edges and got a bevel on the all edges that needed to be beveled, and that worked rather well. Through the next few videos you'll see how I use the 3M blue tape to put a border around the areas I didn't want the Sikaflex going on to. It was successful, but still made a few mistakes. There was few areas where the glass came up too high, and I had to grind out to give a better gap to get enough Sikaflex in there to do the job properly. Here's a video of the area I cut out to give the Sikaflex a better area to grip and hold onto and bond better with the window frame and the plexiglass window. Because the window had flexed out, I filled in behind the plexiglass with Sikaflex, and then you can just see the screw, use the two screws to screw it down, and put a G-clamp on and put some weight in there and let it dry. It worked. So after a little bit of clean-up, it was time to inject the Sikaflex into the gap between the plexiglass window and the window frames. And as I said, we used 295 UV. This was my first time and last time I ever sealed windows with Sikaflex. If you're an amateur and you've never done it before, get it done by a professional. Why I say that is you'll save yourself some grief, because you will make monster mistakes. The first one is the angle. When you're cleaning up and making it smooth, you've got to get that angle right, and you've got to get it on before it even dries, because if it's even got a little bit of a skin from the heat of the day, especially in Asia, it's so difficult to fix, and we found it nearly impossible to solve that problem. An example of that is when you pull the tape away. Again, if you've allowed it to form a skin, the tape pulls up the skin of the Sikaflex, and again you've got real problems. The finish is spoilt and difficult to solve. Some videos and people say that you should remove the tape immediately after you put the Sikaflex in while it's still wet, and others say that you should wait 4 hours until it's past tacky and then remove it. But we tried both, and we found that while it was still wet was the best, because taking it off while it was nearly dry was a matter of having to cut it away. As I did each of the 8 windows, I got better at it, and of course that's too late. There was too many things I had to repair later on, and but you can see that the job's much better. Between the join of the different plexiglass window partitions, it has the vertical drop of Sikaflex, and as that dried in the heat of the day, in some cases it shrunk, leaving gaps, and it had to be done again. Fortunately it was only a small amount of work, but still it was a pain in the neck. Here I am finishing off by peeling away the tape on the last window, which turned out really good. You could still see it was an amateur job, and another reason I say, if you've never done it before, get a professional to do it. If you're handy with your hands, or you're a tradesman or a skilled labourer, then you'd probably do a better job than I did. After 20 years in the police force and 20 years of repairing computers, I have little experience with hands-on work. So here are some tips and hints from an amateur. First, number 1, get it done by. 2, use lots of 3M blue masking tape. Save yourself a lot of work. 3, don't remove the windows if putting a fresh lot of Sikaflex in solves the problem. 4, be prepared and use the right tools for the right job. 5, use a minimum of 3mm of 3M double-sided tape to stick both the window and the window frame together. 6, make sure you know the difference between Sikaflex 291 and 295 UV. 7, be aware of the spring that you get in curved windows, or you'll make the same mistake I did. 8, do one window at a time and make sure that you smooth out the Sikaflex before it forms a skin. 9, use a minimum angle on your spatula to get a better and smoother finish. 10, use the right amount of pressure on your spatula to get back to the tape and the window to reduce the skin peeling away from your work. 11, if you've never done it before, don't do it, get a professional. I made this mistake. On the other hand, you might do a much better job than I did. I'm not good at Sikaflex. This video was produced by myself, and it's the end of another exciting video of part 30 of my progress report so far of my haul out resealing plexiglass windows at Rebec Island.